Hello everybody, welcome back to a regular service. Normal service is resumed. Last week was episode 666 and I tried to do all sorts of stuff with smoke machines which froze the entire system. I'm pretty sure that this smoke machine should not be certified for European use. It kicks out so much interference that it knocked out all my HDMI connections and my USB connections. And I would imagine that's probably not something that the FCA or whoever it is that manages these things allows. But anyway, that's really not what this is about. I didn't want to start that. Welcome to the podcast to do with music technology. I suppose Smoke Machine is kind of music technology. We talk about music production, synthesizers, instruments, recording, live performance, software, all kinds of stuff. Everything that ties into the world of creating and consuming music. And this is episode 667 of all things. Could you believe it? You can find us on Spotify, on Stitcher. This is audio versions. Google. You can ask Alexa to play the Sonic Talk podcast, as you can with Google Home as well. I can't remember what you have to say. You have to say, okay, Google something, don't you? Oops, what have I done? Yes, and I want to also direct you to our Patreon. This is where we put all of our exclusive content, which you don't find on our YouTube channel. Things like patches, little bits of extra for reviews, audio files, chit chat, all kinds of things. If you want to head over to the Patreon/sonictalk.com. No, patreon.com/sonictalk. I always get that wrong. Let me just put that up there again, just to clarify matters. Be much appreciated if you wanted to support us. That's very much welcome. And I want to say thank you to our friends over at Isotope and also Modal. I'll be having some messages a little later on from them. But in the meantime, let's get on to some guests. Eeny, meeny, miny. Yoad Nevo. There he is in Nevo Sound in London. How on earth are you, Yoad? You good?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Busy? Do I detect more keyboards there, or am I just imagining things?
Same keyboards, more guitars though.
Yes, I remember you saying you were
But you can't
you
see
were
them.
considering having more. You were getting into your axe in lockdown, so that's what's happening at the moment, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm really enjoying it. And it kind of coincides with my work at Waves. We're doing stuff related to guitars all the time, so
perfect.
It's good to be on the edge of technology and seeing what's happening. I recently got the Boss GT 1000 core, which is quite nice.
That's the one with the guitar synth, isn't it?
No, it's just a modular and effects. Just got the Amplitude 5, which is really nice too. This and that.
Immersing yourself in things with strings. It sounds like a alliterative headline, that, doesn't it? Of course, Yoad is a remixer, producer, mix engineer, and also a developer at Waves, product developer at Waves. So I'm sure your time is busy between all of your commitments, but it's lovely to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we also have, we have Mr. Matt Hodson, who's been busy. Matt, I guess it's that time of year where you're doing lots of educational things, because as well as being a modular artiste and producer and YouTube streamer and whatnot, he's also an educator at BIMS based in Brighton. How are you, Matt? You good?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's good to be back. Yeah, I've been here for a couple of weeks. It's just been looking after my lovely students as they're slowly gathering their work together and finalising things for hand in. I've just been looking after them, been busy with that, been busy writing some music, pitching some stuff for TV and adverts, been rebuilding a new live case over here as well. In fact, I must say thanks to one of the, someone from the channel. They actually contacted me on Twitter. I forget your name, I'm so sorry, but I was after a hardware sequencer that did envelopes shapes. One of the things that I do a lot in my music is I play around with envelope shapes and add them together and things like that. And I found this one. It's called the Performer by Westlicht, and it's an awesome sequencer. Actually, I might be able to zoom down here.
I'm just going to see if I can find it.
There it is.
Westlicht.
8-track sequencer. That's it. That's the one, Nick. And as well as CV and gate, it actually also, you can draw in really complex curves and shapes, which you can use as modulation. And it's done everything that I needed it to, and I absolutely love it. So thank you to whoever sent me that, and I'm so sorry I forgot your name, but I bought it, and it's there, and it's open source, and people can add stuff to it. So I'm really excited about that. I need to get out more. Good.
Well, that's all right. I mean, I admire that you'll be able to not only look after your students, but do that and work for media pitches, because those are notoriously immutable in terms of deadlines. So you have the cojones, sir.
Yeah, it's usually we need something that sounds like whatever, within 4 hours or half a day. But I usually get asked to do the more kind of weird and wonderful stuff. I don't really get asked for the Coldplay sound-alike songs. I get asked for the more kind of moody. Can you do something a bit sort of dark and soupy?
That sounds ideal. It's right up your street. So just like creating another track. Perfect. Excellent. Nice one. And we've also have Mr. Gaz Williams there. My goodness, Gaz, your optics are getting better and better. You look like you're on a photo shoot. You look like you've got one of those. I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like you've got one of those kind of reflectors below you that shines the sort of sunlight up into your face. Amazing.
Oh.
How are you? Gaz Williams, of course, a YouTuber, bass player, producer, all of those things, mastering engineer, and many other besides. How are you?
Yeah, good. Got a lot of mastering doing. I'm doing a lot of mastering at the moment, which is interesting. Trying out some new ideas, getting the head around LUFS finally. What else? Interesting. Lots of cool stuff. Making some great video content for a client, which is cool. Take me into new areas of video production. And of course, my stream. I've got my show tonight, 8 p.m. as well. So please join me for that.
The Gaz Williams Show. Excellent.
The Gaz Williams Show. Look, we got the Source Audio C4 synth that's going to be on the bench tonight, and we're going to have a look at. There's a very in-depth synth. There's an editor that you can run on your phone or on your computer for this little bad boy, and that's what is going to be joined by. I just got the gooseneck, the gooseneck for the Arturia Microfreak. Yeah, so it's going to be about C4 and gooseneck joy tonight. So
sounds like explosives and something else. Yeah. Excellent. Well, 8 o'clock.
Thank you.
8 o'clock. Excellent.
Yes, please.
Well, glad to hear it. So I think that I've introduced everybody. So I guess we can get on to. Oh, I wanted to say we've got some more stuff coming up on the show on Sonic. State YouTube channel as well, so do subscribe if you're interested. I've got my circuit review, which I've got the play out here, just on circuit tracks, and I have to say I thought it sounded and worked really nicely. So circuit tracks. I also did a review, an interview with Rachel K. Collier last week, which is going to go into will all be coming up. She's always a good to talk to, and also an artist called Helena Rice, who is really interesting. So stay tuned for that. And of course, I've got the. Oh, I turned it down. I've got the Uno Synth Pro, which I'll be looking at in some way or another over the next week or so. So yeah, stay tuned. Right, but before we do that, let's have a look at some videos. This one I loved. I just thought this was so fantastically ridiculous. This is Techmoan, and he's looking at auto reverse cassettes.
Over the last few years, I've made quite a few videos that feature cassettes. I've taken a look at the Philips compact cassette, the mini, the micro, the Pico, and the NT. I've also had a look at an interesting cassette changer mechanism that came from Sony, possibly with this. Playing the tape, it fires it up a plastic ramp. It hopefully slides back down that line.
All these ways that
introduction, it does it inside being
auto reverse was done in really interesting ways.
Absolutely amazing. And for everything that's happening on the top, there's probably an equal or even greater number of things happening underneath. In fact, you don't really...
This is really just a little oddity. I should have probably saved it for an and finally piece, really, because what it demonstrates is, I think it was the Akai CS55D from 1972. I mean, when cassette first came out, it was all the rage, as we know, and has been, major part of most of our listening careers, throughout. If you're a certain age, you'll know about cassettes. But because there was auto reverse, which developed, and obviously it means that when it gets to the tape, you find it in cars, it turns back and plays the other side, and you don't have to rewind it all. And that is what this video basically covers, is the history of that. And some of the ideas they came up with were just absolutely ludicrous. This kind of insanely complicated mechanical solutions to what is in the end, what I think they turned out is they got the playhead and they just turned the playhead around and then reversed the direction of the motor, which is pretty obvious when you think about it. But they had all sorts of things that actually physically take the cassette out, move it. It's just absolutely crazy. I'm going to come to you first, Yoad, because I know you like to solve problems. I don't know whether you're a hardware solving problem. I guess so. You're always trying to figure out how to cram stuff into
problem creator.
Oh, I see. Is that your official title? But this, I don't know if you got a chance to see this, but it struck me as just such a lovely, wonderful piece of arcane design history.
Yeah, it's quite remarkable. I mean, the amount of engineering that went into those things, and this guy says that, you know, no one today will be able to create such complex engineering work because there's no need to. I guess everything is controlled by servos and, you know, little motors and a lot of computing power. So, but it's quite interesting. It reminds me of when I was, I think, 7 or something like that. I found on my dad's girlfriend's car in the back a cassette that was just lying there. And it kind of got melted. You know, it was just lying there for ages, and it got kind of bent, and the plastic was totally deformed. And I took it home, and I opened it, and I moved the tape to another cassette enclosure. And when I pressed play, there was the Pink Floyd "Wish You Were Here," and that's how I discovered that album, and that was an amazing moment.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's
but you had to work at it.
That story.
I know that I mean, Gaz, tape stuff is always fascinating. I mean, in cassettes, you know, there's that sort of endless meme, isn't there? If you know what a pencil and a cassette is, then you're of a certain age. But I mean, cassettes still have, you know, you see kids with Walkmans now. It's a bit of a trendy item, you know. It's roller skating or BMX, or probably scooting, more likely.
Let's see if that ever makes a comeback. I doubt it. I mean, I was talking to a good old friend of mine, Rod Callan, who's a music producer, and we were talking about DAT machines, and he's got one working DAT machine, and he says every time now he has to do any transfers. Rod works for Ronnie Wood at the Stones. Every time he has to do DAT transfers, it's literally sort of, you know, is it gonna, you know, DAT, I mean, I think DAT is probably the least reliable format of all time.
Yeah, I haven't got. I tell you what, I do have. I've got what I have got is a TCD7, a beautiful little Sony like Walk Datman, and that just doesn't work anymore. And I'm so disappointed because it's the only one I kept.
Can I just say, Techmoan is my favourite... this is amazing. Techmoan is my favourite YouTuber of all time, and Sonicstate podcast, my favourite podcast of all time. So the two things smashing together is dead exciting. Techmoan, instant subscribe if you don't subscribe to him. I think his content, he can make the most mundane, boring thing just like gripping and fascinating. The guy has got the chops, I think. Amazing.
Excellent. So I haven't watched any of his other stuff, but I've posted the link in the chat so people can check it out. Matt, have you got fond memories of auto reverse? I always remember weren't they the things that always used to kind of chew your favourite tape, auto reverse?
I think they always used to confuse me because I'm dyslexic, and I think it would always confuse me that, you know, when you try and record onto a cassette tape and you accidentally do it on the wrong side because it had an auto reverse or something like that. But so I tell you one thing I do love is this sort of resurgence of people taking Walkmans and tape machines and modifying them so you can slow them down, you can speed them up, you can play around with the pitch. I guess like a small version of what Jamie Liddell's done recently with his massive tape machine in Basco. And Basco, is that a word? And
sounds like it. Should be.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? You've just got to search on Etsy, on eBay. You can find people who've just got really old school Walkmans, which is great because they're upcycling them, I guess. And then they're putting these modified controls on them so you can change the speed of them. Now, if you want that kind of Board to Canada lo-fi sound, get yourself something like an SH-101, record a very quick arpeggiation onto it, and then slow it right down. And there's just something magic about that slow tape sound. It's so nostalgic, and it is nostalgic technology that we're also playing with, which is quite interesting. So the sound and the technology is both harking back to a time before. So I love what people are doing with this. I've been listening to some albums that are just made in this way, where people are just looping up. They've kind of got it going round as like a recording mechanism as well, and they're just overdubbing stuff onto it, and then it warbles and it slowly dies away over time, and you can play around with the pitch, and then of course send that through a blue sky reverb or some delays very subtly. It's just awesome. And I guess tape as well, something like this is quite cool to have in the studio. Like just an old tape recorder. Just whack down some of your snares. If you're having problems with your snares and transients and kick drums, even bass lines, just whack that through it and record through it if you can into the computer. Go do yourself a favor and the world. Go on eBay and buy some of these plastic things before they end up in the sea, and reuse them and make awesome music. That's what I say.
That sounds like a good plan. I mean, and there's so many different flavors of tape as well. I mean, we have banged on about tape a bit recently, so maybe I shouldn't go on about it. But the metal tapes and the TDK sort of flavors, they always seem to be. They were different flavors. They were the ones that I always used to use in the 4-track. But yeah, lots of people are using. I know Alessandro Cortini uses tape loops and records drones onto tracks, 4 tracks, which he uses live, and you can pitch. I mean, it's just another way of doing stuff. Right.
I love the fact that you can just pull the tape out and wind it around some pencils or whatever, and jiggle it about yourself and add that warble to it, and that essentially some human modulation into
human modulation. I think that's got to be. I'm going to be human modulation. I'm writing that down for
Did I get the title? It's
maybe
my first title.
Early days. It's not.
Okay,
hang on. I don't believe that for a second.
That'll
work.
A little bit of human modulation for you. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Let's see where we go. Actually, let's get this done and dusted before we move on.
Isotope Producers Club is a one-of-a-kind membership for producers ready to take their tracks to the next level. Once you join, you'll gain access to powerhouse Isotope plugins and a curated selection of tools from our partners, such as Melodyne from Celemony. Plus, as long as you're a member, you'll get every future update to the Isotope plugins in your membership for no extra cost. We'll also regularly serve you new curated content like exclusive inspiration-sparking sample packs and preset packs, and industry-leading training ranging from our own tutorials to vocal production lessons from the world-renowned Berklee Online, taught by Grammy-winning producer and engineer Prince Charles Alexander. With new content being added every month full of valuable production techniques, tips and tricks, and solutions to common production problems, becoming a member is an investment in your career that grows as you and your career do. For more information on Isotope Producers Club, head to isotope.com.
And of course, there's also the Music Production Suite Pro, which is a little bit more affordable, but with also, I've got the ability to, if you're interested, you can head over to isotope.com/sonictalk and save 10% on anything that's not a subscription using the code SONIC10. Save yourself a few quid, and we thank them very much for supporting the show. So, let's have a look. What's next? Oh, I think maybe I'm just trying to whether we go. Well, let's go technical. Actually, okay. So I'm going to go to this guy, which is the Antelope Audio. Now, it's got a Axino Synergy Core. So this has basically got audio interface.
Yeah, my name's Amir
DSP,
Yaqub. I am an engineer and a producer. I have worked with people like Rihanna and Sia. And today we are in my studio, the Aquarium in East London. Today I'm here with the Antelope Axino, which they've been kind enough to send me.
So, yeah, well, I was going to say, what is it? But I could say that just as easily. So, that was the video the official video is Amir Yaqub But this is quite an interesting. It's a modelling mic, because we know Antelope have been pushing this kind of FPGA and DSP, really high-end audio interfaces that are quite expensive, sort of up there with the kind of cost of UAD stuff. But this one is a modelling mic which has the FPGA and the DSP on board. So you've got something like 18 mic models, plus you've got plugins that you can run within it to process in real time, sort of mic preamps, as well as the models and EQs and effects, and you can apply those effects to there's two stereo USB audio returns as well. So it's quite an interesting idea, and it's like $400, which doesn't seem like an insane amount of money. I'm just thinking, I've not really tried mic modelling, and this didn't really go into that. It wasn't really a sort of full review of that, but it looks kind of interesting. Maybe if I come to you, Yoad, mic modelling, because it's something that's really sort of taken hold a little bit with particularly mobile producers, when they just have, there was I forget the makes of them, but there are some go-to ones, aren't there, that people use, and they just swear by them, and it just means that you can literally have a number of different mics, and they're getting pretty good. Have you come across this stuff before?
Yeah, I think the concept here is really nice. The concept exists for 12 years or so. But for me, the main attraction here is the fact that you can carry a good quality mic in your laptop bag, and you don't need a sound card because you have your headphones output on the actual mic. I don't know how it lives on the table without getting knocked over all the time on a I guess like a podcast stand or something like that.
It comes with a stand, as far as I can understand. Yeah.
But still, when when you have kind of your headphone lead coming out of it and stuff like that, I don't know how that works. But the idea of having all that without having a sound card, without having extra DSP, extra units, and extra processing power on your computer, which means that you can hear it with low latency while you're recording. So basically, to have a good modeling mic system to work properly, you need a mic which is quite transparent and very dynamic, because it works in a way a little bit like subtractive synthesis, where you have the full range of the signal, and then you
take
out
it. Yeah.
You take out stuff. So you'll use a lot of low pass filtering, some possibly adding some harmonic distortion. Or harmonics. That's the only thing you will be adding. But you need a mic that will be very crisp, very quiet, and very dynamic. So I've not tried, and I've not listened to how it sounds, but I'm sure
I haven't had the
good.
opportunity. I'm going to put a request in for this for review, because I think it'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. My only, and this is being a bit greedy, because when you start thinking about this as your main sound card, then basically it caters for everyone who works with keyboards, because then you can have something like that as your MIDI or MIDI keyboard input, if you like, and you have your mic, so you're sorted. The only thing you can't do is record guitar, electric guitar, and bass. Obviously, acoustic guitar you can record because it's a mic. So if you're doing like folk music and stuff like that, then all you need is your acoustic guitar and laptop bag, and you're sorted. It would have been nice to have, but that's asking a little bit too much from
a line
a
in
mic,
as well. Yeah, I see what you say.
But I think it's a really cool. It looks probably sorry. It looks proper. It looks well built, and it looks nice. And Antelope Audio are, they're a good brand. So
they've never really made it. They've not really made it into the kind of, because they've been trying to push into this high-end DSP stuff. I mean, I'm not saying that they don't have any audience, but they haven't had the same traction as somebody like you at Universal Audio. Gaz, I suspect you were probably going to bring up that it's the Lewitt, isn't it? Is it the Lewitt mic that does all the modelling? But that's a stereo one, isn't it? I think. No, not the Lewitt. It's not Lewitt. It's I can't remember. It's Townsend.
Townsend. There is that one, and also there's a Slate Audio one.
Slate.
But I thought I've just got Yeah, the Slate, and that sounded really impressive to me when I've heard that being demoed. But I just had a little rummage in my defunct box to find this little thing from the past. This is the Roland MMP2, which is a mic modeling preamp from about 2002, something like that, 2003. Defunct now, the software doesn't work. But what you did with this one is there was a range of microphones that you could use with it, including an AKG C3000B, which
so it had profiles for that.
Nice, had profiles for that, and then it had a bunch of profiles then that you could kind of model to. It also had like some some preamp models in here as well, and I think this was really ahead of the curve. It's quite a well made thing, kind of chunky old beast, but in the defunct box now. But so that's that technology, and of course Antares, I think, were maybe first out the door with mic modeling, weren't they? Wow, way back. 20 years ago or something. So this is a kind of curious thing as a music producer, and I'm sure certainly Yoad will I'm sure we'll agree with this, is when you're working on an album project with a vocalist, and if you've got a range of mics, the different mics can have an astonishing difference on the end result. It really is something that is quite a remarkable thing, how a particular person's voice interacts with the microphone. And the thing that I have always found is expensive doesn't necessarily always equate to better. And on many occasions, using a Neumann U87 as the sort of default studio mic, just in some cases just did not work at all. And like a Rode NTV, that's the older valve mic they used to make, might just be the perfect fit, or Rode NTK, which I've got here. I've used that on various sessions where I've got much more expensive, more prestigious mics. So the idea of just flicking through mic profiles and finding the right profile, I think has a lot of validity as well. I mean, some of this technology could be interpreted as a bit snake oily, but, I'm not so sure. I mean, because like when you're making a microphone, I don't know much about this, but it's something, I know that Neumann hand calibrate their diaphragms by making little sort of pinpricks in the diaphragm, and then sort of metering it somehow and finding and tuning the diaphragm to get a particular frequency response. I think in part, I think that's why Neumann mics do sound generally good, but as I say, if that profile doesn't quite work for the voice or accentuates certain areas, makes someone's nasal kind of quality, like make them sound like they got massive nostrils. I don't know.
Oh, that's another one. Sorry, Matt. Massive nostrils is now taking taking another one, but we'll see.
Yeah, so just that really. I think the idea, the like Antelope Audio have got acclaimed converters that they use, and their whole kind of audio path is superb. So I'm imagining, having not tried this, that mic modeling could be pretty accurate, especially as they know the exact response. Yeah, well, it depends. I mean,
it seems very affordable, doesn't it? So I mean, it's just whether or not they can make that sort of thing work. I know, Matt, I'm guessing, do you use mic models for your students? Because it would make more sense rather than having a mic cupboard with everything in it, or all the classics.
We do actually. We actually use a great recording studio here called Brighton Electric, which you've got everything from vintage mics, Coles, through to modern day mics and whatever the engineers are bringing in that particular day that they've bought from a car boot sale, which is brilliant. So the students get to use a wide range of different microphones, and like me, when I was at university, it took me a long time actually sometimes to hear the difference. Really hear the difference between microphones, and particularly then when you pair them with a preamp or a compressor or limiter and that kind of thing. It's kind of the venture I've been on in the modular world is actually been about finding oscillators that pair with filters really well. Because sometimes I bought a filter and I'm like, I got this amazing filter, and it just doesn't work with the oscillator for some reason. There's some sort of mismatch. I don't know what it is. So I found some really great combinations, and I think that's still key when you're working with microphones is that great combination between the microphone, the preamp, and the limiting, the compression that goes on. Now you've got, in this particular model that we're talking about, you've got de-essers, you've got auto-tune, limiting.
You've got API.
Is there a
you've
preamp
got,
in there, Nick?
EQ, that's a good
EQ,
point.
I couldn't see a preamp, and I think that the preamp makes a heck of a difference. Sometimes when I'm working with vocalists in the past, I used to have one of those liquid channels, Focusrite liquid channel, which allowed you basically to set up and find a really good preset for your vocalist you was working on. So you could get exactly the sound that you want with them, and then you could take that into a studio with you, and you've got their vocal sound essentially. And then you could just try it through different preamps and a little bit more outboard, and you might do some paralleling with some other microphones or something like that. That was pretty good. This looks really interesting. There's a couple of things to it. One, I think it's a great price. I think it looks really cool. I like the design. By the looks of it, each one of those things costs an extra $55, though, doesn't it? I don't think they all come with it.
Well, I think you get 10 included, which are these things. So yeah, there is a kind of not freemium, but premium. So you do get these, but well, let's have a look. That maybe the preamps are in the expandables. Yeah, maybe that's
$55.
Okay. Let's have a look. Expandable fillet. Let's see. Doesn't look like it. Looks like they're more real-time effects rather than preamps, which is interesting. Like what you were saying about that. Yeah, it looks like there isn't a preamp in there, but that's an interesting point.
The other thing that just throws me a little bit, and someone mentioned this just a second ago in the chat room on YouTube, was latency. You start throwing the word latency into a vocal chain for me, and I'm suddenly dubious. But it's got to be bang on. You can't have any discrepancies as far as I'm concerned.
I'm pretty sure
you'll probably be able to tell us. You can go down to what 4, 5, 10 milliseconds before you start noticing something.
I think this has a low millisecond.
Seven is kind of the 6, 7 is the golden kind of. You don't want to go over that. But here, I presume that they have direct monitoring through the headphone.
They do.
Output.
Yeah.
And if you can, and since most of your latency will be caused by your OS actually and the drivers, so if it's at the mic stage, then you shouldn't have too much latency if you use direct monitoring.
Yeah, that's what I'd just like to point. That is what you do have the ability, because the effects live in the mic. Those are being applied. They're not in the box. They're in the mic, so that you don't. So the DSP is presumably optimized to mean that there's little or no latency when it's processing there.
Great. It does say to use the auto tune effect, for example. It says ultra low latency. I'm just wondering that, coupled with, as Yoad points out, your CPU latency on top of that, if it's going to be in. It'd be great to try it out. It'd be. I don't want to poo-poo this straight away. I think it's really interesting, and
you can get low latency on pitch correction as well, surprisingly low, because if you think about the fact that you have to count cycles in order to detect the pitch, but there's some clever ways, like we do in our tune real time. Sorry, I had to mention that because it's no latency kind of pitch correction, and I'm sure that they use a similar technology, so it is possible. It's like, if you think about it, they use we use technology which is similar to what used in guitar tuners. So you count the zero crossings. So you have to actually, it's sufficient to only count half the cycle and things like that. So there are ways of optimizing pitch detection.
I mean, I'm going to get one of these, Nick, just so I can do the podcast with some auto tune on it and just.
I would really like it. I'd like it to be absolutely kind of crazy. I would like my voice, my spoken voice, to be. Yeah, or maybe we can have a MIDI file playing at the same time to sort of, so it just plays a melody of your spoken word. That would be the idea.
Definitely.
I can do this too. I can do this in real time.
Yeah,
I can do this in real time, but it's not that useful. Right, but I mean, for what it's worth, I want to be sexy.
What Gaz says about old mics, I mean, I'm using the Rode NT2. I bought this when I was at university when I was about 18, 19, and I've still got it, and it's still rocking. I bought the same mic as you've got there, Nick, which I think's a Rode as well, the Vocal Caster or something.
It's just, Podcast or Procaster, I forget what it's called.
And it just didn't work with my voice. And
Pod mic.
Pod mic, that's it. I got it, and I thought there was something wrong with it. It just did not pick me up, and whether that's because I'm northern or because I've just got
you do need, because
voice.
this is a dynamic mic, so you need a bit of proximity for it to sound radio. I mean, it's more. I prefer dynamics in this environment because of the rejection, and it's going to be in shot anyway. I mean, I could have a condenser shotgun or something out of shot, but it actually it's got a more sort of woody sound. I think a dynamic mic, so that's why I choose it. But
I've become a huge fan of this Lewitt LCT 640 TS. This one I use for, I use it for my shows, but I use it. This one is great. This one's got the two diaphragms. You can tap out a second XLR, mini XLR out the side, and then take both diaphragms as two separate signals, and then you record a stereo file then into your DAW, and then there's a little plugin that they do which allows you to change the polar patterns after the fact by kind of balancing off both diaphragms. And then we've talked about it before, but I was genuinely astonished how different the different polar patterns are on voice. And in fact, I can probably show you this now. If I change the polar pattern, I'm on cardioid, but if I change it now to the figure 8, for singing, the figure 8 just sounds so much better on my voice than the cardioid. But I don't know if you'll hear this. Well, perhaps I should sing for you. No, I'll spare you that. But let's just change it now. Now this is the figure 8. I don't know how much difference you can hear there,
it's more tightly focused. Sounds to me.
It just sounds, and it sounds lovely for sort of vocalizing. So and then also going into the more the Omni sort of capsule is these kind of tonal changes are quite hard to hear when you're engineering a session, but actually having it recorded and then being able to vary it. And it's actually, you can do some pretty cool techniques where you can actually automate the plugin, so you can actually automate the polar pattern. So if you vary it from like a cardioid or even a hypercardioid in the verse and then move it to like an omni in the chorus or something, you get this really peculiar effect. So I thought I'd just mention that because I've never really seen that on any other microphone. Sure.
I was watching something on YouTube recently, which was somebody saying about how they were. I think it was Chicky last week. In fact, he was saying that because we were talking about Al Schmidt, and he was saying record vocals with Omni mics because they just sound so much better. So there you go.
Because when you think about it, Omni is the purest way. When you use polar patterns, it means that you're canceling out. So you're using another diaphragm to cancel out bits. It's like humbucker. Humbucker will never sound like a single coil. It will never have the top end because it's two which are kind of fighting one against the other all the time. And that's what happens with a cardioid mic with two diaphragms. It's different on a dynamic mic like a 57 or something like that, because then you have holes in the back, that's why when the singers kind of hold the mic and block those holes, then you get the feedback, because it becomes an omni mic, and you don't want that on stage. So, but with a condenser mic, the purest signal will always be the omni. There was a time that I recorded only with not only vocals, everything, guitars, with acoustic guitar. It's amazing. But you need to have a really quiet environment, quiet
room. A nice room, presumably.
And then if you record omni, like with an Earthworks or something like that, or even an 87 or something, it just sounds very different, very pure.
Interesting.
Isn't it true that if you record with only unbalanced cables, you get a better signal? If you can do it with shorter runs, that actually balanced slightly knocks a little bit.
Oh, really?
Okay, absolutely. Unbalanced it sounds fuller. It's really hard to do it with mics because you'll have so much noise. But if you manage to do it, it sounds, you have much more headroom and much more kind of low end, but not in a muddy way. It still stays very, very clear.
That's interesting. How would you go about that?
Unbalanced.
I mean, how would you go?
Really
would you just
sound.
need to record in a Faraday cage or something? I mean, how does it?
Yeah, that would be convenient. A lot of artists would love that.
Right. Okay. Well, there we go. That's fascinating. Thank you very much. I did not know that, but yeah, that's the Antelope Audio. It just I've put in a request for review. I don't know if I've got a live contact with them at the moment, but I would like to try it out, and I think it would be quite interesting. Okay. I think it's time just to bring a little message from our friends over at Modal. Of course, this is the Cobalt 8, which I reviewed some time ago. Beautiful looking synthesizer with 8-voice extended virtual analog, innovative oscillator with 34 algorithms, morphable 4-pole ladder filter, 29 endless encoders for real-time control, internal sequencer and arpeggiator, MPE support for expression, and the Modal app, which runs Mac, Windows, iOS, Android, VST and AU, which actually means it's pretty much multi-platform. If you want to find out more, head over to bit.ly/get_modal, and we thank them very much for their support. Okay, well, I'm glad that led to a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much for that extra information. Let's see. We did that one. I'm just trying to think. Do we want to do Lego, or do we want to go a bit? Which way do we want to go? I'll take a show of hands. We've got Lego, or we've got Sine Vibes, or we've got Modular, or yeah, okay, all right. Let's go Modular, just what the hell, because Gaz is also there. This is the AAX. Let me turn that up. AX CV1, Multiphonics CV1. It's kind of yet another software module system with lots of different modules that you can download. Let me see if I can find it. I need to click on the button that opens up the available modules. It's quite affordable, actually. This one, I think it's at the moment $79, usually $99, so it's not a great deal of money. I mean, there are a number of alternatives out there. Obviously, we've got CV Rack, Soft-Tube, Modular, Cherry Audio, and all of this stuff. So anyway, this is a new software. I know that. Well, I'll come to you first, Matt. In fact, if I do come for you first, because I know you combine, don't you? Because you use the Bitwig modular environment. I don't know if you use any other modular environments, whether you're into Reactor or stuff, because maybe Bitwig Grid gives you enough. But this is another. I mean, it seems like it's not something that you do lightly. So there must be demand. And AX are a mid-sized company. They're not massive. They probably haven't got a whole team of developers that they can just throw millions of pounds at. But so obviously this is either a labourer of love, or it's something that people want. Do you want it?
This is a very good question. I do want it, because when I keep buying all this sort of stuff, it means I can't eat for a month. So, and I'm getting quite hungry now. So it's quite a lot cheaper to be getting into the software side of this. And when a lot of students are like, "Oh, I want to get into Modular," first thing I say is, go get VCV Rack. It's completely free, unless you want to pay for some of the high-end modules, but you can do a lot with it. If you've got Bitwig, you've got that whole platform within there, which is kind of modular, but also designed for composition as well. And it's really, really good with playing around with time. Then, of course, you've got Reactor. You've got who's the other company that did? You've got Cherry Audio doing this kind of thing. Got one. Soft-Tube as well. Soft-Tube one's quite expensive, if I remember rightly. Now, it kind of feels like to me like there's a bit of a race to the market almost with this. I'm yet to see really what the distinction is between them. The thing I like about VCV Rack is that it enables people just to make different modules for it. I believe it's kind of open platform in that way. Whereas this, though, is 79 quid. I believe you get everything included. I don't think there's any additional costing. There's educational pricing in there as well, which is pretty cool. And it's standalone as well. So I quite like the idea of running things as well without a DAW open when I'm working in the sort of modular world, just to keep me in that just to keep me in that arena, that framework of not working in something that's a kind of linear timeline. When you're working with modular, you're playing around with time in different ways, and I think that's important. So this was really interesting to come across, because I used to love. Do you remember these guys? They used to do Tasman, which was a sort of semi-modular environment synthesizer, but I remember it being so good, the CPU load, my PC would just fall over as soon as you open a patch, and it just like, but I used to be like, this sounds great. Whenever I did get a sound out of it, I thought it sounded really, really chunky for what it was at the time. And this is back in the, early 2000s, late 90s, when Tasman was out. I don't know if that's now been discontinued.
I'm just looking, actually. I mean, because they've been sort of focusing on modeling recently, and so this is a kind of, I don't know if this is using the same core technology, but it seems like a slight difference in movement for them. But yeah, well worth checking out. Like I say, I can't answer that question. Whether it doesn't look like Tasman is still there, to be honest.
Shame. Bring back Tasman. Let's start a petition. Let's get Tasman back in the world.
Tasman.
We need more Tasman, definitely.
So, Gaz, we there are countless times of you on record with Sonic Talk saying I'm not going there, but you've gone there now. You're in Modular World, and you're Monday Modular. I think, is it Mondays you do your Modular show?
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about this in software? Because in many ways, it sort of does solve some problems in terms of the work that you put in creating that beautiful thing. You can get back. You don't have to commit to the recording of it, or it's a repeatable thing. I mean, how do you feel about that as a concept?
True. Well, I mean, fantastic. I mean, there's sort of recallability is something that the physical modular world is almost virtually impossible to do. So if you actually working, then it makes a lot of sense. I mean, but I don't do any actual work on my modular rig at all. It's the opposite of work. So it's almost, I fart around, basically. That's what I do in modular.
It's recreational, right?
Recreational, yeah, definitely. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm trying to. I'm getting away from using computers for any kind of synth side of things. VSTs. I've pretty much. I've kind of gone off that so much in recent years, and so actually, go into something like this. I'm not that interested in it right now. However, it could be something that I could grow interested in it. I realize that my modular journey is about a year now that I've been on it, and I've been chronicling it with my regular show and chronicling my failures mostly. But it's really interesting to me where that is taking me musically. On my show on Monday, I was looking at the Civilization module. It's the first. I'm going to hopefully do it over 4 episodes, the different modes of the Civilization module from Yoad. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning that is that Yoad obviously are one of the greatest, if not the greatest, software synth manufacturer, certainly in for soft synths, amongst the very best. So I was kind of really interested to see how that computer experience would then manifest into a physical module, and it is a really terrific thing. But I mention that because I'm kind of very interested in trying to create really harmonious music, believe it or not. I mean, most of my things have been anything but that. And it's a struggle with modular, with a physical modular. It's a struggle to make things good and to make things happen. And I think with computers, you're always just like a click away from a preset, and then suddenly it sounds great, And I think that's the part of the journey that I'm really enjoying, the sort of the wrestling with this chaos to try and find something beautiful within it. But anyway, that's a digression. That's a digression. This, though, looks superb in terms of what you get for your money. I mean, I had been looking at the soft tube one because there was a few modules.
It's good. It is good, but it's got that sort of slightly extra headroom you get with the sound quality and the audio rate modulation. Also manifests itself in sort of CPU load, as you would imagine. So there's that to consider.
Well, I mean, I was wondering about it though. Just to road test sort of some expensive modules, like some of the IntelliGel ones or something. To road test them in a virtual sense before committing to buy them. Physical ones.
I see what you mean. Yeah,
quite an interesting way of doing things, but I don't know. But I mean, I think I did try to deny going down the modular route, as you mentioned, for years and years and years, and people taunted me about it, saying, join us and all this kind of thing. And then once they join, people say, "Oh, you're going to be skint," and yes, I am now skint. And it's all Modular's fault.
Well, it's the classic, isn't it? It's the classic. I know. Yoad, I mean, what goes into some of this stuff. Someone in the chat room said, ask Yoad about Creamware Modular, because apparently that's something that you were into. I mean, I know, because we've talked about what you've been using Modular in your, you've got it in your studio, but you very rarely reach for it just purely because it's not practical in your work environment.
Not only that, my entire studio is patched as one big modular system, as you know, because you've been here and we did the tour. And, I can modulate stuff from this end to this end, both polyphonic and monophonic, and the Matrix Brute. And, I have a small modular rack. But for me, I don't see a point in creating a modular patch, or a physical modular patch to do a baseline, because it's easier to do it on an SH or a Minimoog or something like that. So for stuff I use in productions, I have all these synths for, which I love, and it's all great. And for the bleepy and squeaky stuff, I don't think that the difference in the sonics between analog and digital, obviously there is a difference, but when you're talking about all the stuff Modular is so great for, it's so much easier to achieve all that on the screen, and it's recallable, like you said, and you can have as many instances as you want, and possibly it's polyphonic as well, or you can make it polyphonic by running a few instances and splitting the voices. And so you have so much more, flexibility that, for me, the physical aspect of playing, because I'm a guitarist, is the guitar. So I don't need that aspect by plugging patches and stuff like that, because I did that on the analog desk for years, patching effect returns and compressors and stuff during mixes. So I don't personally miss that. And also, I design synths for a living, so I'm doing the nitty and gritty side of synthesis. So I don't, miss the physical aspect of it. This looks like a really cool product. There's something kind of neat about it. Sometimes they get kind of intimidating to people who are not familiar with that kind of, endless possibilities.
Yeah, they've made it very
this looks quite
simple.
neat.
They have made it very simple.
Yeah, I like the UI on that. And the price is almost like it's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I guess, I would come back to you, Matt, because, what you've figured out is how to integrate the two things. So you get the performative aspect of it. And quite often, a patch or a setup on your system is maybe a palette of sounds that you would use for a period where it may where it may generate 2 or 3 tracks, and then you might change things around. But the communication and the recallability comes from maybe some of the sequencing side and the control side that you use. At least that's how I understand it from what your integration is.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually find it quite slow as well to patch on a computer using these programs as opposed to physically. I mean, this case here pretty much stays patched. This is what I'm writing all my new songs with. Every single month I put one out, and it comes from this and this only, and it stays patched. And some people say that might defeat the object of modular. Well, I also can put a lid on this, and it's got a handle, and I get on an EasyJet with it, and I can go and play a gig, and it's ready to go. And so for me, like coming up with a bass line or whatever, I've already got this amazing oscillator matched with this particular filter. Or I can choose one of the 5 other filters I've got over here, and choose what that filter and that oscillator is going to sound like for that particular bass line. I actually think I work quicker in this domain now. And also, I'm quite keen to commit rather than this recall and recall and recall. I love the fact that I can produce a song on this, record it down, I can multi-track it still, and I can take the stereo of it, and I also run it through some compression as well. And it's done. And then I put it out, and there's no faffing around and going back and changing it up. And I've also experimented with putting down the same line multiple times at different intervals to create chords and that kind of thing, just like in the old school days. And I just find that whole process fascinating and fun. And I don't find it time consuming at all. And I feel a better connection, a more meaningful connection with the music than I ever have done using a computer. It's pulled me in that sort of direction. It might be a romantic thing, and I might be trying to justify the amount of money that I spend on this as well.
Well, yeah, but if you've designed your workflow to suit the way, I mean, and you know that because you've invested all that time in it to make it something that actually isn't. Somebody put something in the chat room. I forgot what it was. It was I can't remember, profitless noodling or something like that. I think it was called. Whereas you actually, that's not what you're doing.
I mean, you can go down that route of doing bleeps and bloops. I make very immersive, big, distorted, techno, immersive. You can't do anything except for either listen to it or turn it off. It doesn't sit anywhere else in the room. So I stay away from the bleepy bloopy stuff. I really do. And I guess it's kind of synonymous with that. And I'm trying to change it. I mean, go to my Bandcamp and listen to the music on there. You'll see how sort of visceral it is and how much I exploit the sort of brutality of these raw oscillators, which can knock your head off when you play them through a really good sound system if you're capturing them right. And I've and sorry, just I digressed, but to answer your question before, the connection between this and the computer exists in a number of ways. So you've got the ESA, Expert Sleepers, which allows me to kick audio and CV back and forth. So I can run stuff out the computer through this and back in again. And I can just run stuff from the computer into this, sample straight into the bit box and that kind of thing. So I can do it that way. The other way, it's all clocked as well. Master clock comes from the Modular, sends it to the BeatStep Pro. The BeatStep Pro talks to Ableton or Bitwig and says you're in time. And there's a few milliseconds of wobble, but it's good enough for me. It's close enough for jazz. I'm not trying to make music that's inch perfect and edited the life out of it anyway. I like the movement of it and the fact that it's not quite right. I could talk about it all day long.
I think that's a really good justification for it. I mean, you're one of the fortunate ones who's found a way, and also are recognised for doing that, and that's why people come to you because they want that thing that you do, rather than it's not like kind of going, well, I'm going to write a novel, but I'm only going to use a pencil. It's kind of like, even though there is a word processor available, it's not a kind of Anyway, that feels like a kind of quite a good point at which to sort of wrap things up, because it feels like a kind of good moment to a good sentiment to end on, I would say. So I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us. It's been a pleasure as ever. Gaz, you're going to be firing up your stream at 8 o'clock tonight, where people can get
so
get more of your.
Be looking at because we're going to be looking at the C4 synth, and now if you look,
are you putting a bass into that or a guitar? What are you going to put in?
I'm going to put a bass into it. But one of the things it says is, in the manual for this, it says, this is a Eurorack module in a pedal. It doesn't say it's like a Eurorack module. It says it is a Eurorack module in a pedal, which is such a stupid thing to say.
Has it got CV/IO as well?
Nope. So we're going to investigate that though, and have a look at just what its synthesis capabilities are. So please join me for that at 8 p.m. on BST. We say, don't we?
Is that what it is? I don't know. UTM.
British Summertime.
Oh yes, of course. That's
UTM.
Universal
What's
time.
UTM?
Universal time measurement. I think it's a server thing. I think it's like seconds since a certain time. So it's a very, very long number, if I remember correctly. But yeah, okay. Right. Well, lovely. Thank you, Kaz, and lovely to have you aboard. And Mr. Matt Hodson, thank you for joining us too. Of course, are you streaming at the moment? Are you still on schedule for your track a month, or are you having to?
Yeah, I am. Although something weird went wrong. My distributor somehow released a track that wasn't finished, which was on Spotify and everything for about a week, and it's just been taken down. So sorry, folks who have got that, and it's been on a number of playlists. So I'm uploading the right track tonight. There's a new track going out on Bandcamp either tonight or tomorrow. And then, continuing one a month. I'm also going to start doing live versions of each track that I've been releasing so far each month. And these live versions will be recorded in high quality, and they'll be on my Bandcamp for those that subscribe.
That's a challenge.
You'll get those free ones. Yeah, so I'm recalling the songs that I've done, and I'm replaying them. So, and there'll be slightly different oscillators, different effects, but it'll be the same notes. So it's kind of like reinterpreting your own work. Quite excited about it.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, good for you. Okay, brilliant. Well, hopefully, people can find you at maths pretty much everywhere, right? So easy
pretty much everywhere.
Thanks for having me. I got the number of maths right today. I usually say 4. I can't stop myself. I overrun. Yoad,
I'll get you a T-shirt, Nick.
Thank you. Lovely to have you as well, Yoad. I'm guessing you've been busy because I know you've been saying I can't make it. You got a lot on. Have you got a lot of mix work? I mean, what's the bulk?
Loads, mixing all the time, and I have my waves work, which is really fascinating, and it kind of correlates to guitars and stuff at the moment. So can't complain really. I can, Excellent. But I won't.
Well, thank you, everybody. At this point, we say thank you, and we say thank you to all of our viewers over at the chat rooms, the various chat rooms, because we stream on YouTube, we stream on Facebook Live, and IRC. I think most of these comments seem to be coming in from YouTube, but thank you, everybody. That is Sonic Talk episode 667. We made it without too many catastrophes. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hold on.